Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S66078 Charlotte's Web. Chapter 6 Summer Days. The early summer days on a farm are the happiest and fairest days of the year. The lilacs bloom and make the air sweet and then fade. Apple blossoms come with the lilacs, and the bees visit around among the apple trees. The days grow warm and soft. School ends, and children have time to play and to fish for trout in the brook. Avery often brought a trout home in his pocket, warm and stiff and ready to be fried for supper. Now that school was over, Fun visited the barn almost every day. To sit quietly on her stool, the animals treated her as an equal. The sheep lay calmly at her feet. Around the 1st of July, the workhorses were hitched to the mowing machine, and Mr. Zuckerman climbed into the seat. He drove into the field. All morning you could hear the rattle of the machine as it went round and round, while the tall grass fell down behind the cutter bar in long green swaths. Next day, if there was no thunder shower, all hands would help rake and pitch and load, and the hay would be hauled to the barn in the high hay wagon, with Fawn and Avery riding at the top of the load. Then the hay would be hoisted, sweet and warm, into the big loft until the whole barn seemed like a wonderful bed of timothy and clover. It was fine to jump in and perfect to hide in, and sometimes Avery would find a little grass snake in the hay and would add it to the other things in his pocket. Early summer days are just a jubilee time for birds. In the fields, around the house, in the barn, in the woods, in the swamp, everywhere love and songs and nests and eggs. From the edge of the woods, the white-throated sparrow, which must come all the way from Boston, calls, "Oh, Peabody, Peabody, Peabody." On an apple bough, the phoebe teeters and wags its tail, and said, "Phoebe, Phoebe." The song sparrow, who knows how brief and lovely life is, says, "Sweet, sweet, sweet interlude, sweet, sweet, sweet interlude." If you enter the barn, the swallows swoop down from the nest and scold. "Chicky, chicky," they say. In early summer, there are plenty of things for a child to eat and drink and suck and chew. Dandelion stems are full of milk. Clover heads are loaded with nectar. The fridge there is full of ice-cold drinks. Everywhere you look is life. Even the little bowl of spit on the wheat stalk, if you poke it apart, has a green, warm inside. And on the underside of the leaf of the potato vine are the bright orange eggs of the potato bug. It was on a day in early summer that the goose eggs hatched. This was important even in the event in the barn cellar. One was there, sitting on her stool, when it happened, except for the goose herself. Charlotte was the first to know that the goslings had at last arrived. The goose knew a day in advance that they were coming. She could hear the weak voices calling from inside the egg. She knew that they were in a desperately cramped position inside the shell and were most anxious to break through and get out. So she sat quite still and talked less than usual. When the first gosling poked its gray-green head through the goose feathers and looked around, Charlotte spied it, and made the announcement. "I'm sure," she said, "that every one of us here will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of our friend, the goose, she now has something to show for it. The goslings have arrived. May I offer my sincere congratulations?" "Thank you, thank you, thank you," said the goose, nodding and bowing shamelessly. "Thank you," said the gander. "Congratulations," shouted Wilbur. "How many goslings are there? I can only see one." "There are 7," said the goose. "Fine," said Charlotte. "7 is a lucky number." "Luck had nothing to do with this," said the goose. "It was good management and hard work." At this point, Templeton showed his nose from his hiding place on the Wilbur's trough. He glanced at Fawn, then crept cautiously toward the goose, keeping close to the wall. Everyone watched him, for he was not well liked, not trusted. Look, he began in his sharp voice. You say you have 7 goslings. There were 8 eggs. What happened to the other egg? Why didn't it hatch? It's a dud, I guess, said the goose. What are you going to do with it? Continued Templeton, his little round, beady eyes fixed on the goose. You can have it, replied the goose. Roll it away and add it to that nasty collection of yours. Templeton had a habit of picking up unusual objects around the farm and storing them in his home. He saved everything. Certainly, said the gander. You may have the egg, but I'll tell you one thing, Templeton. If I ever catch you oking your ugly nose around that gosling, I'll give you the worst pounding a rat ever took. And the gander opened his strong wings and beat the air with them to show his power. He was strong and brave, but the truth is, both the goose and the gander were worried about Templeton, and with good reason. The rat had no morals, no conscience, no scruples, no consideration, no decency, no milk of rotten kindness, no compunctions, no higher feeling, no friendliness, no anything. He would kill a gosling if he could get away with it. The goose knew that. Everybody knew it. With her broad bill, the goose pushed the unhatched egg out of the nest, and the entire company watched in disgust while the rat rolled it away. Even Wilbur, who could eat almost anything, was appalled. Imagine wanting a junky old rotten egg, he muttered. A rat is a rat, said Charlotte. She laughed at tinkling little laugh. But my friends, if that ancient egg ever breaks, this barn will be untenable. What's that mean? Asked Wilbur. It means nobody will be able to live here on account of the smell. A rotten egg is a regular stink bomb. I won't break it, snarled Templeton. I know what I'm doing. I handle stuff like this all the time. He disappeared into his tunnel, pushing the goose egg in front of him. He pushed and nudged till he succeeded in rolling it to his lair under the trough. That afternoon, when the wind had died down and the barnyard was quiet and warm, the gray goose led her 7 goslings off the nest and out into the world. Mr. Zuckerman spied them when he came with Wilbur's supper. Well, hello there, he said, smiling all over. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 baby geese now. Isn't that lovely? Chapter 7, Bad News. Wilbur liked Charlotte better and better each day. Her campaign against insects seemed sensible and useful. Hardly anybody around the farm had a good word to say for the fly. Flies just spent the time pestering others. The cows hated them. The horses detested them. The sheep loathed them. Mr. and Mrs. Zuckerman were always complaining about them and putting up screens. Wilbur admired the way Charlotte managed. He was particularly glad that she always put a victim to sleep before eating it. It's real thoughtful of you to do that, Charlotte, he said. Yes, she replied in a sweet musical voice. I always give them an anesthetics so they won't feel pain. It's a little service I throw in. As the days went by, Wilbur grew and grew. He ate 3 big meals a day. He spent long hours lying on his side, half asleep, dreaming pleasant dreams. He enjoyed good health. He gained a lot of weight one afternoon, and Fawn was sitting on her stool. The oldest sheep walked into the barn and stopped to pay a call on Wilbur. Hello, she said. Seems to me you are putting on weight. Yes, I guess I am, replied Wilbur. At my age, it's a good idea to just keep gaining. Just the same, I don't envy you, said the old sheep. You know what they are fattening you up, don't you? No, said Wilbur. Well, I don't like to spread the bad news, said the sheep, but they are fattening you up. 'Cause they're gonna kill you, that's why. They're going to what? Screamed Wilbur. Fawn grew rigid on her stool. Kill you? turn you into smoked bacon and ham. Continue the old sheep. Almost all young pigs get murdered by the farmer as soon as the real cold weather sets in. There's a regular conspiracy around here to kill you at Christmas time. Everybody is in the plot. Lurvy, Jackman, even John Arable. Mr. Arable? Sobbed Wilbur. Fun's father? Certainly. When a pig is to be butchered, everybody helps. I'm an old sheep, and I see the same thing, same old business, year after year. Arable arrives with his 22, shoots the... Stop! Screamed Wilbur. I don't want to die. Save me, somebody. Save me. Fun was just about to jump up when a voice was heard. Be quiet, Wilbur, said Charlotte, who had been listening to this awful conversation. I can't be quiet, screamed Wilbur, racing up and down. I don't want to be killed. I don't want to die. Is it true what the old sheep says, Charlotte? Is it true they're going to kill me when the cold weather comes? Well, said the spider, plucking thoughtfully at her web, the old sheep has been around this barn a long time. She has seen many a spring pig come and go. If she says they plan to kill you, I'm sure it is true. It's also the dirtiest trick I ever heard of. What people don't think of. Wilbur burst into tears. I don't want to die, he moaned. I want to stay alive right here in my comfortable manure pile with all my friends. I want to breathe the beautiful air and lie in the beautiful sun. Yeah, certainly making a beautiful noise. Snapped the old sheep. I don't want to die, screamed the Wilbur, throwing himself to the ground. You shall not die, said Charlotte briskly. What? Really? Who is going to save me? I am, said Charlotte. How? Asked Wilbur. That remains to be seen, but I'm gonna save you. I want you to quiet down immediately. You're carrying on in a childish way. Stop your crying. I can't stand hysterics. Chapter 8. A Talk at Home. On Sunday morning, Mr. and Mrs. Arable and Fawn were sitting at breakfast in the kitchen. Avery had finished and was upstairs looking for his slingshot. Did you know that Uncle Homer's goslings had hatched? Asked Fawn. How many? Asked Mr. Arable. 7, replied Fawn. There were 8 eggs, but one egg didn't hatch, and the goose told Templeton she didn't want it anymore, so he took it away. The goose did what? As Miss Arable, gazing at the daughter with a queer, worried look, told Templeton she didn't want the egg anymore. Repeated for who is Templeton? Asked Mrs. Arable. He is a rat. None of us like him much. Who is us? Asked Mr. Arable. Oh, everybody in the barn cellar. Wilbur and the sheep and the lambs and the goose and the gander and the gosling and Charlotte and me. Charlotte? Said Mrs. Arable. Who is Charlotte? She's Wilbur's best friend. She's terribly clever. What does she look like? Asked Mrs. Arable. Well, said Fawn thoughtfully, she has 8 legs. All spiders do, I guess. Charlotte is a spider? Asked Fawn's mother. Fawn nodded. A big gray one. She has a web across the top of a Wilbur's doorway. She catches flies and sucks their blood. Wilbur adores her. Does he really? Said Mrs. Arable. Rather vaguely, she was staring at Fawn with a worried expression on her face. Oh yes, Wilbur adores Charlotte, said Fawn. Do you know what Charlotte said when the goslings hatched? I haven't the faintest idea, said Mr. Arable. Tell us. Well, when the first gosling stuck its little head out from under the goose, I was sitting on my stool in the corner, and Charlotte was on her way. She made a speech. She said, I'm sure that every one of us here in the barn cellar will be gratified to learn that after 4 weeks of unremitting effort and patience on the part of the goose, she now has something to show for it. Don't you think that was a pleasant thing for her to say? Yes, I do. Now, Fawn, it's time to get ready for Sunday school, and tell Avery to get ready. And this afternoon, you can tell me more about what goes on in Uncle Homer's barn. Aren't you spending quite a long time there? You go there almost every afternoon, don't you? Yeah, I like it there. She wiped the mouth and went upstairs. After she had left home, Mrs. Elbow spoke in a low voice to her husband. I worry about Farm. Did you hear the way she rambled on about the animal, pretending that they talked? Mr. Elbow chuckled. Maybe they do talk, he said. I have sometimes wondered that anyway. Don't worry about Farm. She just got a lively imagination. Kids think they hear all sorts of things. Just the same, I do worry about her, replied Mrs. Elbow. I think I shall ask Dr. Dorian about her the next time I see him. He loves Fawn almost as much as we do, and I want him to know how queerly she is acting about that pig and everything. I don't think it's normal, you know perfectly well. Animals don't talk. Mr. Elbow grinned. Maybe our ears aren't as sharp as Fawn's, he said. Chapter 9 Wilbur's Boast. A spider's web is stronger than it looks. Although it is made of this thin, delicate strands, the web is not easily broken. However, a web gets torn every day by the insects that kick around in it, and a spider must rebuild it when it gets full of holes. Charlotte liked to do her weaving during the late afternoon, and Fawn liked to sit nearby and watch. One afternoon, she heard a most interesting conversation and witnessed the strange event. You have awfully hairy legs, Charlotte, said Wilbur as the spider busy working at her desk. My legs are hairy for a good reason, replied Charlotte. Furthermore, each leg of mine has 7 sections, the coxa, the trochanter, the femur, the patella, the tibia, the metatarsus, and the tarsus. Wilbur said, bolt upright. You're kidding, he said. No, I'm not either. Say those names again. I didn't catch them the first time. The coxa, trochanter, femur, patella, tibia, metatarsa, and tarsus. Good news, said Wilbur, looking down at his own chubby legs. I don't think my legs have 7 sections. Well, you and I lead different lives. You don't have to spin a web. That takes real leg work. I could spin a web if I tried, said Wilbur, boasting. I have just never tried. Let's see you do it, said Charlotte. Fawn chuckled softly and her eyes grew wide with love for the pig. Okay, replied Wilbur. You coach me and I'll spin one. It must be a lot of fun to spin a web. How do I start? Take a deep breath, said Charlotte, smiling. Wilbur breathed deeply. Now climb to the highest place you can get to, like this. Charlotte raced up to the top of the doorway. Wilbur scrambled to the top of the manure pile. Very good. Now make an attachment with your spinnerets. Hurt yourself into space and let out a drag line as you go down. Wilbur hesitated a moment, then jumped out into the air. He glanced hastily behind to see if a piece of rope was following him to check his fall, but nothing seemed to be happening in his rear. And the next thing he knew, he landed with a thump. Oomp! He grunted. Charlotte laughed so hard her web began to sway. What did I do wrong? Asked the pig when he recovered from his bump. Nothing. It was a nice try. I think I'll try again, said Wilbur cheerfully. I believe what I need is a little piece of string to hold me. The pig walked out to his yard. You there, Templeton, he called. The rat poked his head out from under the trough. Got a little piece of string I could borrow? Asked Wilbur. I needed to spin a web. Yes, indeed, replied Templeton, who saved the string. No trouble at all, anything to oblige. He crept down into his hole, pushed the goose egg out of the way, and returned with an old piece of dirty white string. Wilbur examined it. That's just the thing, he said. Tie one end to my tail, will you, Templeton? Wilbur crouched low with his thin, curly tail toward the rat. Templeton seized the string and passed it around the end of the pig's tail and tied 2 inches. Charlotte watched in delight. Like Fawn, she was truly fond of Wilbur. With a smelly pen and stale food attached to a file that she needed, And she was proud to see that he was not a quitter and was willing to try again to spin a web. While the red and the spider and the little girl watched, Wilbur climbed again to the top of the manure pile, full of energy and hope. Everybody watch, he cried, and summoning all his strength, he threw himself into air at fast. The string trailed behind him, but as he had neglected to fasten the other end to anything, it didn't really do any good, and Wilbur landed with a thud, crushed by her. Tears came to his eyes. Templeton grinned. Charlotte just said quietly after the beat she spoke, "You can spin a web, Wilbur, and I advise you to put the idea out of your mind. You act. Two things needed for spinning a web. What are they?" said Wilbur. "You like a set of some spinners, and you left now. How? But cheer up, you don't need a web. Zuckerman supplies you with 3 big meals a day. Why should you worry about trapping food?" Wilbur sighed. "You're ever so much cleverer, brighter than I am, Charlotte. I guess I was just trying to show off. 7 serves me right." Templeton untied his string and took it back to his home. Charlotte returned to her weaving. "You needn't feel too badly, Wilbur. Many creatures can spin webs. Even men aren't as good as it is spiders. Although they think they are pretty good, they will try anything. Did you ever hear of the Queensboro Bridge?" Wilbur shook his head. Is it a web? Sort of. But do you know how long it took men to build it? 8 whole years, my goodness. What do people catch in the Queensboro Bridge, huh? Bugs? Asked Wilbur. "No," said Charlotte. "They don't catch anything. They just keep trotting back and forth across the bridge, thinking there is something better on the other side. If they would hang head down at the top of the thing and, well, wait quietly, maybe something good would come along. But no, with man, it's rush. Rush every minute. I'm glad I'm in a sedentary spider." "What does a sedentary mean?" asked Wilbur. "It means I sit still a good part of the time and don't go wandering all over situation." "All over creation, I know a good thing when I see it, and my web is a good thing. I stay put and wait for what comes. It gives me a chance to think. Well, I'm sort of sedentary myself, I guess," said the pig. "I have to hang around here, whether I want to or not. You know where I would really like to be this evening? Where? In a forest, looking for beech nuts and truffles and delectable roots, pushing leaves aside with my wonderful strong nose, searching and sniffing along the ground, smelling and smelling." "You smell just the way you are," remarked the lamb, who had just walked in. "I can smell you from here. You are the smelliest creature in the place." Wilbur hung his head. His eyes grew wet with tears. Charlotte noticed his embarrassment, and she spoke sharply to the lamb. "Let Wilbur alone. He has a perfect right to smell, considering his surroundings. You are no bundle of sweet peas yourself. Furthermore, you are interrupting a very pleasant conversation. What were we talking about, Wilbur, when we are so rudely interrupted?" "Oh, I don't remember," said Wilbur. "It doesn't make any difference. Let's not talk anymore for a while. Charlotte, I'm getting sleepy. You go ahead and finish fixing your web. I'll just sit here and watch you. It's a lovely evening." Wilbur stretched out on his side. Twilight settled over Zuckerman's barn, and a feeling of peace. Fawn knew it was almost supper time, but she couldn't bear to leave. Swallows passed on silent wings, in and out of the doorways, bringing food to their young ones from across the road. A bird sang, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. Worby sat down under an apple tree, and his pipe. The animal just sniffed the familiar smell of strong tobacco. Wilbur held off the trill of the tree, and the occasional slamming of the kitchen door. All these sounds made him feel comfortable and happy, for he loved the life and loved to be a part of the world on a summer evening. But as he lay there, he remembered what the old ship has told him. The thought of death came to him, and he began to tremble with fear. Charlotte, he said softly. Yes, Wilbur, I don't want to die. Of course you don't, said Charlotte in a comforting voice. I just love it here in the barn, said Wilbur. I love everything about this place. Of course you do, said Charlotte. We all do. The goose appeared, followed by her 7 goslings. They thrust their little necks out, kept up a musical whistling like tiny troop of pipers. Wilbur listened to the sound. Charlotte, he said. Yes, said the spider. Were you serious when you promised you to keep them from killing me? I was never more serious in my life. I'm not going to let you die, Wilbur. How are you going to save me? Asked Wilbur, whose curiosity was very strong on this point. Well, I don't really know, but I'm working on a plan. That's wonderful. How is the plan coming, Charlotte? Have you got very far with it? Is it coming along pretty well? Charlotte was cool and collected. Oh, it's coming all right, she said lightly. The plan is still in its early stages and hasn't completely shaped up yet, but I'm working on it. When do you work on it? When I'm hanging head down at the top of my ranch. That's when I do my thinking, because then all the blood is my head. I would be only too glad to help in any way I can. Oh, I'll work on it. I'll work it out alone, said Charlotte. I can think better if I think alone. All right, but don't fail to let me know if there's anything I can do to help, no matter how slight. Well, you must try to build yourself up. I want you to get plenty of sleep and stop worrying. Never hurry and never worry. Chew your food thoroughly and eat every bit of it, except you must leave just enough for Templeton, gain weight and stay well. That's the way you can help. Keep fit and don't lose your nerve. Do you think you understand? Yes, I understand. Go along to bed then. Sleep is important. Wilbur trotted over to the darkest corner of his pen and threw himself down. He closed his eyes. In another minute he spoke. Charlotte, he said. Yes, Wilbur, may I go out to my trough and see if I left any of my supper? I think I just left a tiny bit of mashed potato. Slowly, said Charlotte. Never hurry and never worry. Wilbur checked himself and crept slowly to his trough. He found a bit of potato, chewed it carefully, swallowed it, and walked back to bed. He closed his eyes and was silent for a while. Charlotte, he said in a whisper. Yes, may I get a drink of milk? I think there are a few drops of milk left in my trough. No, the trough is dry. I want you to go to sleep. No more talking. Close your eyes and go to sleep. Wilbur shut his eyes. Fawn got up from a stool and started for home, mind full of everything she had seen and heard. Good morning. Good night, Charlotte, said Wilbur. Good night, Wilbur. There was a pause. Good night, Charlotte. Good night, Wilbur. Good night, good night. The end.